was stunned as I watched the figure lead the pack of hybrid creatures towards us. Fear and uncertainty gripped me as I realized that we had no idea how to defeat this new enemy. It was unlike anything we had ever faced before, and it seemed to be more intelligent and powerful than the other creatures we had encountered. As the figure drew closer, I could see its glowing eyes fixated on me. I knew that it was targeting me, but I had no idea why. Suddenly, it let out a deafening roar, signaling the beginning of a new battle. I fought with everything I had, my mind racing with strategies and ideas on how to defeat this new enemy. But every attack we launched seemed to bounce off its tough exterior, and it fought back with an incredible ferocity. As the battle raged on, we were losing ground. Our weapons were no match for this new enemy, and we were quickly running out of options. It seemed like all hope was lost. But then, out of nowhere, Arya appeared. She had been separated from us during the battle, but she had returned with a new weapon, a device that emitted a high-frequency sound that disrupted the enemy's senses. With Arya's weapon, we finally had a fighting chance. We launched a coordinated attack, hitting the enemy from all sides while Arya aimed her device at it. And slowly, but surely, we began to gain the upper hand. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the enemy let out a final roar and fell to the ground. We stood over it, panting and exhausted, but victorious. But as we caught our breath, we realized that the battle had taken a toll on us. We had lost many of our comrades, and we were all injured and exhausted. We knew that we had to regroup and find a way to survive in this new, even more dangerous world. And so, we set out once again, ready to face whatever horrors came our way. We had no idea what the future held, but we knew that we would face it together, with courage and determination, no matter what the cost. As we trudged through the desolate landscape, we knew that we had to be prepared for anything. The horrors of the apocalypse had only just begun, and who knew what new enemies and terrors lay ahead. But one thing was certain, we would face them together, with strength, with courage, and with hope for a better tomorrow. And with that, our story continues, as we fight to survive in this horror-apocalyptic world, wondering what new challenges and horrors lay ahead. As we trekked through the barren wasteland, we encountered new characters, each with their own stories of survival and loss. There was a group of scavengers who had managed to find a way to survive by salvaging whatever they could find from the ruins of the old world. They had a knack for finding hidden caches of supplies and were willing to trade with us for the things we needed. Then there was a small community of survivors who had banded together to create a new home in the ruins of an old factory. They were trying to rebuild a semblance of civilization, growing crops and raising livestock to sustain themselves. But among these new allies, there were also new enemies. We encountered a group of raiders who had turned to pillaging and terrorizing other survivors to get what they wanted. They were ruthless and violent, and we knew that we had to be careful around them. As we journeyed on, we also encountered new hybrid creatures, each one more terrifying than the last. We fought tooth and nail to survive, relying on our wits and our weapons to stay alive. But no matter how hard we fought, the horrors of this world seemed never-ending. There were always more dangers, more terrors lurking around every corner. One day, we stumbled upon a laboratory deep in the heart of the wasteland. It had been abandoned for years, but there were signs that someone had been there recently. We cautiously made our way inside, and what we found there made our blood run cold. The scientists who had worked there had been experimenting on the hybrid creatures, trying to create new and even more terrifying monsters. And then, as we were exploring the lab, we heard a noise. It was coming from one of the rooms in the back, and it sounded like something was moving. We cautiously made our way towards the noise, our hearts pounding in our chests. And then, as we opened the door, we saw something that made our blood run cold. It was a new hybrid creature, unlike anything we had ever seen before. It was huge, with razor-sharp claws and glowing eyes that seemed to stare right through us. And it was headed straight towards us. We had never seen a creature like this before. It was easily 3 times our size, with thick fur covering its body, and its teeth were bared in a savage snarl. It moved quickly towards us, with a speed that seemed impossible for something of its size. We drew our weapons and prepared to fight, but this creature was on a whole different level. It batted aside our blows with ease and seemed to anticipate our every move. We were hopelessly outmatched. Just when we thought all hope was lost, one of the scientists who had been experimenting in the lab appeared. She was wild-eyed and frantic, shouting for us to follow her. We didn't know what to make of this sudden turn of events, but we didn't have any other options. We followed the scientist as she led us through the labyrinthine corridors of the lab. As we ran, we heard the creature's roars echoing behind us, getting closer and closer with each passing moment. But the scientist seemed to know exactly where she was going, and soon we arrived at a small room in the back of the lab. The scientist quickly punched in a code on the door's keypad, and the door slid open. We rushed inside and the scientist sealed the door shut behind us. We were safe, for now. The room was small and cramped, filled with strange machines and devices that we didn't understand. The scientist began frantically typing on a nearby computer, muttering to herself under her breath. We demanded to know what was going on, but she just shook her head and continued typing. And then, suddenly, she stopped. She turned to us with a wild look in her eyes and said, "I can get us out of here, but we have to move quickly." We didn't know what to make of her sudden change of heart, but we didn't have any other options. We followed her as she led us through the back exit of the lab and out into the wasteland beyond. As we made our way across the barren landscape, we couldn't shake the feeling that something was following us. We looked back and saw the glowing eyes of the creature from the lab, watching us from a distance. It was then that we realized that we weren't just running from the creatures of this world, we were running from something much bigger. As we ran across the wasteland, the scientist kept looking back, her face filled with terror. We didn't know what was chasing us, but we knew it was something even worse than the creatures we had encountered so far. Suddenly, we heard a loud roar that made our blood run cold. We turned around and saw a giant shadowy figure looming over us. Its eyes were glowing like embers in the darkness, and its breaths were heavy and labored that we all froze in terror as the creature approached us, its massive claws tearing up the ground with each step. We knew that we were doomed, that there was no way we could defeat this monster, but just as the creature was about to strike, a group of survivors appeared out of nowhere, armed with powerful weapons that we had never seen before. They opened fire on the creature, hitting it with blasts of energy that sent it stumbling back. We took advantage of the distraction and ran as fast as we could, following the survivors deeper into the wasteland. As we ran, we learned that the survivors were part of a secret resistance movement that had been fighting against the forces that had destroyed the world. They had been waiting for someone to come along who could help them turn the tide of the war. They took us to their hidden base, a sprawling underground complex filled with advanced technology and weapons. The resistance leaders explained that they had been working on a plan to strike back against the enemy, but they needed our help to make it a reality. They showed us the weapons they had developed, weapons that could destroy the enemy's stronghold and give them a chance to take back the world. But they needed us to lead the attack, to be the ones who would strike the decisive blow. That we knew that this was our chance to make a difference, to save the world from the horrors that had consumed it. And so we agreed to help the resistance in their mission. We spent the next few days training with the weapons and studying the enemy's movements. And then, when we were ready, we launched our attack. The battle was intense and brutal, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But we fought with everything we had, and in the end, we emerged victorious. The enemy was defeated, and the world was safe once more. We had become heroes, legends in a world that had forgotten what hope and courage looked like, but even as we celebrated our victory, we knew that there were still challenges ahead, still dangers lurking in the shadows. We were ready to face whatever came next. As we sat around the fire, weary from the battle but filled with a sense of triumph, we heard a faint rustling in the distance. Suddenly, a group of figures appeared out of the darkness, armed and dangerous. We recognized them immediately as members of the enemy's elite guard, the ones who had always been feared but never seen. We knew that we were outnumbered and outmatched, that this was the fight we might not win. But we also knew that we couldn't back down, that we had to protect the world at all costs. We rose to our feet, ready to face whatever came our way. The guards charged at us, their weapons flashing in the firelight. The battle was fierce and brutal, with both sides taking heavy blows. But we fought with everything we had, fueled by the memories of everything we had lost and everything we had gained. In the end, we emerged victorious once more, but this time, we knew that the fight was far from over. There would always be new enemies to face, new battles to fight, but we were ready. We had the strength and the courage to face whatever came our way. And as we looked out at the horizon, we knew that the future was ours to shape. With that, we set out once more, ready to explore the world, to see what new challenges and adventures awaited us. And though we knew that there would always be darkness lurking in the shadows, we were ready to face it head-on, armed with the knowledge that together, we were unstoppable. Is this the end? Maybe not. It's just a beginning.